There's a certain kind of silence that sits in a family dinner. The one where words don't connect, but glances slice through you. That's how it felt that night, when my sister announced she was getting married. Everyone smiled, clapped, pretended to be happy. But there was something in the air that felt like static, invisible, dangerous. My father's expression froze for a second, like he'd seen a ghost. My mother kept drinking her wine faster than usual. And me? I was just trying to swallow the tension that tasted like iron. Then my sister dropped a name of her fiancé. I felt it like a knife in my ribs. I knew that name. That name wasn't supposed to be here. Not in this house, not at this table, not in this family. My father's hands trembled just enough to make the glass in his hand tremor. And when he finally spoke, his voice cracked, fragile and raw. "Who did you say?" he asked. And she repeated the name, proudly, innocently, as if she wasn't detonating a bomb right there in the middle of our family's fragile illusion of harmony. My mind spiraled back to years ago, to laughter, to love, to the warmth that had once been mine, before it turned into ashes. That name, that man, was not a stranger. He was my ex, my past, my secret heartbreak. And now, somehow, my sister's future. The silence after her words was unbearable, thick, suffocating. I could almost hear the sound of my heartbeat echoing through the room. I wanted to scream, to laugh, to ask if this was some cosmic joke. How could life be so cruelly ironic? How could my sister's joy be built on the ruins of my pain? My father excused himself abruptly, his face pale, muttering something about needing air. My mother started rambling about wedding venues, trying to cover the awkwardness, but her hands were shaking. I sat there frozen, a ghost among the living, realizing that the past wasn't done with me. It had just found a new disguise. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. The name kept replaying in my head like a haunting melody I couldn't turn off. I walked outside, barefoot on the cold tiles, the moon reflecting on the glass door. Every sound felt amplified, the creak of the floor, the ticking of the clock, the whisper of wind. I thought about him, my ex, my mistake, my ghost. How could he walk into my family's life as if he hadn't destroyed mine? My reflection in the window looked like a stranger's. I whispered to it, "Why now? Why him?" But the silence only answered back. The next morning, everything looked normal again. Breakfast, smiles, casual chatter. But I could feel the lie beneath every word. My sister was glowing, my father avoided eye contact, and my mother kept pretending everything was fine. The calm before the storm. I stared at my sister's engagement ring. It glittered beautifully, cruelly. The same hands that once held mine now held hers. Maybe this was what fate looked like, cruel symmetry. I tried to convince myself that maybe it was all just coincidence, that there were many people with that name, that maybe my memory was exaggerating. But when I saw his photo on her phone, the air left my lungs. It was him. The same smirk, the same eyes that once told me I was his world. Only now, he was someone else's, my sister's. I felt my stomach twist. I locked myself in my room and stared at the ceiling, wondering how the universe could be so cruelly poetic. The days after the announcement passed in a blur. My sister couldn't stop talking about her wedding plans, the dress, the guests, the honeymoon. Every word felt like a nail being driven into my skin. I tried to smile, to act normal, but inside I was screaming. I found myself scrolling through my old photos, looking for something, anything to make sense of it all. And then, buried deep inside a forgotten folder, I found the picture. The one of him and me, laughing in the sun, so alive it hurt to look at. That moment had once been my whole world, and now it was just a ghost haunting my phone screen. I couldn't decide if I wanted to cry or destroy the picture. I zoomed in on his face, trying to find something, a hint of guilt, a sign that maybe he still remembered me. But all I saw was the man who had once held my heart and then walked away without looking back.
I wondered if he recognized my sister's last name when they met. Did he realize who she was? Did he feel even a flicker of shame? Or was this his revenge? Deliberate, cruel, poetic? I didn't know. All I knew was that I couldn't let the past swallow me whole. Not again. The next weekend, he came over. My father had insisted on meeting the man who had won his daughter's heart. When I saw him walk through that door, it was like time folded in on itself. The smell of his cologne hit me before his face did. And when our eyes met, I saw it. Recognition, shock, a flash of something real before he masked it with charm. My sister ran to greet him, glowing, holding his hand. My father's expression turned pale, almost terrified. "You look familiar," he said. My ex smiled and replied, "Maybe I just have one of those faces." But the silence that followed said otherwise. My father excused himself and went to his office. My mother followed him, whispering urgently. I stayed in the living room, pretending to fix something on the table just to stay near them. My father's voice rose from behind the door, muffled but sharp. "It can't be him," he said. "It can't." My mother asked what he meant, but he didn't answer. I pressed my ear against the wood, my heart pounding. When he finally came out, his face was ghostly white. He looked at me like he knew something I didn't. Later that night, I learned the truth. The kind that doesn't just break you, it rewrites who you are. My father told me everything. Years ago, before I was born, he had a brother who disappeared after a family fight so brutal they never spoke again. He'd moved across the country, changed his name, vanished from every record. My father never saw him again. Until now. The man my sister was marrying, my ex, was my father's long-lost brother's son. My cousin, my ex, my sister's fiancé, my blood. The words hit me like fire and ice at once. Everything twisted in my mind: love, loyalty, disgust. How do you process something that burns through your soul like that? I remember sitting there, completely numb, my father's voice fading into the background as the room seemed to shrink around me. My ex, my cousin, my sister's future husband. It was like every moral compass in my body shattered. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. My father just looked at me with hollow eyes and said, "We can't tell her." His words felt like poison. "She deserves to know," I whispered, but he shook his head. "No, it will destroy her." Maybe it already had. I couldn't sleep after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, not as my ex, but as my cousin, my father's brother's son. My stomach churned with disgust and grief and something deeper: betrayal. My sister was in love with him. My father was haunted by him. And me? I was caught between every truth that shouldn't exist. I wanted to run, to disappear, but I couldn't leave them to burn alone. I had to tell her. The next morning, I knocked on her door, my heart hammering so loud it drowned my thoughts. She smiled when she saw me, all glowing innocence. "I know what you're going to say," she said. "You think it's too fast." I shook my head. "It's worse than that." Her smile faded as I told her the truth. The words came out like shards of glass. "He's not just your fiancé, he's family. He's our cousin." She laughed at first, thinking I was joking. Then she saw my face. The color drained from hers. "No," she whispered, shaking her head, her engagement ring catching the light like an accusation. I told her everything. Our father's confession, the lost brother, the connection. She cried, screamed, said I was lying. Then she ran. I tried to follow her, but she locked herself in her room. I stood outside her door, listening to the sound of her sobs, each one breaking a piece of me. Later that night, she was gone. She'd packed a bag and disappeared. My father called everyone he could, hospitals, friends, police, but she was nowhere. My mother sat on the couch, silent, her eyes empty. I felt like I had killed something sacred, but I also knew that hiding the truth would have killed it slower. 2 days later, we got a call. She'd gone to him. My sister had chosen him, despite everything. She said love doesn't follow rules, that maybe fate wanted it that way. My father broke down, sobbing into his hands. I had never seen him cry before. The wedding still happened, weeks later, small and quiet. I didn't go. I couldn't. The thought of watching them vow eternal love made my skin crawl. My father refused to attend. My mother went, saying someone had to. I stayed home and watched the rain hit the windows, wondering if some stories were meant to stay cursed. I kept thinking about my father's brother, the man who had started it all by leaving. Maybe running away doesn't erase pain. It just plants it somewhere new. The roots find you eventually. Months later, I saw them again, by accident. They looked happy, or at least practiced at pretending. My sister's belly was round, she was pregnant. My ex, my cousin, smiled like a man who'd rewritten his sins into fairy tales. I wanted to hate them both, but instead I just felt hollow. Sometimes the truth doesn't set you free, it just builds another cage. And I was already inside mine. I still think about that night at the dinner table, how it all began with a name, a simple name that tore a family apart. My father never recovered from the shock. My mother grew quieter. My sister disappeared into a life she couldn't escape from. And me? I became a ghost walking through memories that refused to fade. But sometimes, in the dead of night, I still see him in my dreams. The man I loved, the man who destroyed everything, the man who taught me that blood doesn't always mean belonging. Maybe that's what family really is, not a bond, but a mirror. One that shows you who you truly are, no matter how much you try to look away. My sister chose love over logic. My father chose silence over truth. And I chose memory over peace. In the end, we all built our own prisons, some made of lies, some made of love, and some made of both.